Hi, and welcome to the show. Today I have with me Doris Towery, the Development Director at YCAP. And she has joined me to tell us about YCAP, but also I'd like to back up a little bit. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'd like to back up a little bit and ask, where were you born?
So I was born in Huntington, West Virginia.
Okay.
But when I was only 3 weeks old, my dad moved us to Valparaiso, Indiana, where Bethlehem Steel was opening up a brand new steel plant. And he was going there because that's where the jobs were. So I was raised in a little farm community, very similar to McMinnville, which was the home of Orville Redenbacher, and lots of corn instead of wine.
Corn country. They don't have corn tastings there.
No, but they do have a popcorn festival that Valparaiso is famous for, and Orville Redenbacher used to come for all the parades and the popcorn festival.
Orville?
Yes, the real live Orville Redenbacher. So Valparaiso is his home.
And then, what was high school like?
I was a total geek in high school. I was in theater and show choir, or glee club, which a lot of people might what they call it in their schools. So we were the performing choir, and was in speech and debate. I was a pretty shy kid, and our
Shy
coaches,
kid on stage and in debate. How does
yeah, one of high school coaches who were just amazing at, I think, identifying kids that came from some tough backgrounds and maybe needed a little extra support or lacked self-confidence. And fortunately for me, they found me and took me under their wing and coached and trained me to be a state champion and compete on the national level in speech and debate.
Wow.
And went on to do it in college as well. So.
I'll know not to get in an argument with you today.
Although I did sneak into a debate class I wasn't supposed to be in as young as I was in college as the speech person, and beat their top debater on our college team, which was really fun.
Oh, I'd love to hear more of these stories. This is great. So, college at
Indiana University, where I have a degree in speech communication, minor in theater, and got my liberal arts background, and pretty much started my career in newspapers. So my first career started out as an advertising sales rep and worked my way up through the ranks.
That's how you start, isn't it?
Yep, sold ads, and learned all the facets of the newspaper, and then became ad director, and then a newspaper publisher. So I got to be a newspaper publisher in upstate New York, in Auburn, and then also in Helena, Montana, in the state capital, that was a really interesting experience.
Now, you were in a town where, now your husband, Jeff Towery, is our city manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in city business for, that's his career, 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I think you were telling me about you came to a town where you had maybe a conflict of interest. What was it?
I did. I actually ended up on the front page of our competing newspaper, the Syracuse News, because, of course, who I was dating. But my husband was a finalist for the city manager job in Auburn, New York, and of course I didn't know him at the time, and I promised my editor that we would do the background check because our council wasn't doing the background checks on the candidates. And so I flew a reporter from Auburn, New York to Cottage Grove, Oregon, to do the background checks on my husband and make sure that we got a good hire for the city.
Now, he was your husband at the time?
I was divorced.
No. Oh, okay. All right.
So no, he got hired, and then my city editor and my editor and myself every Friday would have lunch with him. And every Friday he also would hand my newspaper red line to my editor, because he's an awesome proofer, which my editor loved that. So we got to know each other professionally, and then accidentally ended up on a date. And that's how we came to Oregon. This was home for him. This was where he had always had a sense of place. And we made the decision that whoever's job would get us here, we would come to Oregon.
Now, where was last stop before here?
So last stop before here was in Helena, Montana. So he actually, which was nice, he had family in Montana and had spent his high school and his undergraduate years in college in Montana. And so it was a nice short stint, but that deal was cut for 4 years. I was a fixer. I went into newspapers to rebuild profits and culture and get them in good shape, and then they'd send me off to the next one.
So you came here not long ago. It's just been a year.
Just a year, yeah.
So you came from Helena, Montana.
We were actually in Springfield before
Okay.
that. We had been here in Oregon for 17 years. So our
Okay.
son was 4 months old when we came. Our daughter was born in Springfield, so we have a native Oregonian. And my husband was in county administration and then was assistant city manager at the city of Springfield. And we had been in Springfield for 17 years.
So success getting to Oregon.
Very successful. And we
But that was your
love
goal.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This, like I say, it's where we have a sense of place. This was, as soon as I came here, it was the first time in my life I had been somewhere that this felt like home. This is where we were supposed to be.
So what was that move like? You've been there for 17 years and now, welcome, you've been here just a few months and you have children, and tell us about that one.
It was, I think initially it was a huge shock to the system. I left what was my dream job and was, working for an organization and mission that I was incredibly passionate about. Our son was a junior in high school. Our daughter was a 7th grader, and so those are not easy ages to move kids. But I have to say, from the moment we came over to McMinnville, when my husband was interviewing, we absolutely fell in love. And of course, we were like, how do we not know about this place? We've lived in Oregon all these years. We love wine. We're foodies. Both of us love to cook, love to eat food as well. And we had no idea that this town existed.
So, don't stop. Keep going.
We fell in
like,
love.
What was it like coming here as so he went from assistant city manager to city manager here. So that's why you left your dream job, because he was going to do.
Coming for his dream job.
Now you seem to be able to get whatever job you want. I don't know. Just you seem to be able to really create something anywhere you go, and you've done that. We'll talk about that. But what about the city of McMinnville? We talked about what you found when you got here.
It's a magical place. I mean, it really, honestly, it is a magical place. When I came for the evening that they had like a community meet and greet for all the city manager candidates, and I could not believe how incredibly nice everybody was. And I was in a conversation with a mayor and 2 counselors. One, I think, was one of the counselors that was coming off the council. And they talked about that they really enjoyed working with each other and that they had fun. And I thought, I've been bouncing around city government with my husband for 20 years, and I've never heard an elected official say that we have fun working together. And they said, we may have moments that we disagree or we vote differently, but at the end of the night, we're friends and we're neighbors, and that's important to us. And folks really live by that. So it was just a level of genuine kindness here. And we honestly, we pinch ourselves every day that this is where we get to be. And as hard as the transition was for our kiddos, the schools were fantastic. Night and day difference for our son. He finished with the best grades he had had all through, middle school and high school. Loved his courses, commented on how he really felt like his teachers were invested in his success and that they wanted to help him be successful. And he hadn't felt that before. So every piece of this community, as we touched those parts and became involved, has been like that. People really care about each other here. And I think it's unique. You don't see that. And I've lived all over the United States. So grew up in the Midwest, lived in New York, lived in Montana, came to the Pacific Northwest. And as much as we loved Springfield, it never looked like this. So we really do. We pinch ourselves that we get to be part of this awesome community. It's a really special place. And we met more people in the first week as we were moving into our house than I probably met in the 17 years that I lived in my house in Springfield. Same neighborhood, never moved.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a testimony.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
This is
Visit
a really
McMinnville.
and stay.
Visit McMinnville should take that clip of this interview and put that on their website that goes across the country right there.
It's an awesome place. And the businesses, people people support each other. I think as a country, it sometimes to me feels like we've lost the connectivity. When I grew up, we would have neighborhood picnics, and the grown-ups would Christmas carol around our neighborhood. And I think it just has felt like we've lost that over time, but McMinnville hasn't lost that. Those connections are still here. I mean, you see Halloween. I've never seen anything like that, with everybody parading up and down the streets in their Halloween costumes. And of course, that's my favorite holiday, so I was, all right, everybody's all dressed up and, connecting with each other as neighbors. I mean, you watch it with the wine business and how winemakers connect and still to this day support each other as farmers and as community neighbors. It's unique.
All right. Well, wow. What a pleasure hearing that about you and your life,
Thank you.
and we're lucky to have you. It's just amazing the background that you bring to Development Director at YCAP. Let's talk about YCAP, okay?
Excellent. I'd love to talk about YCAP.
Let's just go to the basics. Mission. What comes up for you? What's your passion? What are you working on? What's the
So
edge?
the mission overall for the organization is really to work with our neighbors to help people be self-sufficient. And, I like to think about it too, is to help people be successful. So how do we work with folks that are struggling and, just trying to get to a place where they can have a good quality of life? And so we do that work and touch people's lives in many ways, from homelessness prevention programs where we're helping folks be able to stay in their homes, to helping folks get into homes if they're homelessness or have slipped into homelessness, food insecurity, helping folks address that, and supporting 26 organizations around the entire county with food.
Food insecurity. What does that look like for the community?
So our poverty rates, and so latest statistics that I've seen, like through the county's needs assessment, and I know the city's working on some needs assessment work as well. Our poverty rates are sitting just under about 17%. And, which, when we look at folks that we're working with from the standpoint of numbers of folks that are getting access to food, so we're in that food insecure space, the organizations that we work with and we distribute food to impacts about 15,000 people a month, which translates to about 15% of our population. So it's a big, wide reach.
So 17% in poverty, 15% of the community you reach.
There's a gap in there.
Well, I was noticing that those numbers are very close.
They are close,
So,
absolutely.
meaning you get to cover a large part of those people that need it.
Just over 2 million pounds of food collected and distributed last year. So it's a significant amount. And we don't do that on our own. We work with the Oregon Food Bank, with Feeding America, that we get large portions of our food at a really inexpensive cost so that we can get that distributed out. Incredible amount of food drives that we do. We're, all of our schools are running food drives, and our schools are running food drives, and they got a lot of kiddos that are food insecure
So the food,
in their schools.
Yeah, the food comes out and comes back
right.
in, redistributed right there.
Our businesses that are incredibly supportive in this community, and because we are blessed to live in an agricultural community, we have some amazing farms that are gleaning and or harvesting stuff and making donations back. We featured one farmer, Pablo Munoz, who has given over 58,000 pounds of food that he's donated to the food bank, and that's fresh produce. I mean, he grows amazing, beautiful produce, and 58,000 pounds that he's given back to help our families.
He's set up next to the Mexican restaurant out there
On the corner of 99 and Lafayette. Mazatlan.
That's where you get the strawberries.
Yes, the best strawberries.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, his strawberries are amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. So we have farmers who are doing work like that and giving back. And then we're able to take out, so I had the privilege last week to go out to, we have our harvest to home during the summertime. So as all this amazing produce is coming in, we're working with locations to be able to help folks get access. And one of them that we work with the city of McMinnville with the senior center. And so we're out there on Tuesdays. Yeah, today's Wednesday. So Tuesdays, we're out. Take that back. Wednesdays, we're out with the senior center, and folks can come in and get fresh produce, and they share recipes. It's become this community onto itself. So folks are coming in and they're getting whatever the produce are, and they're learning new ways they might be able to use things. Like there were lentils last week that folks could have, and they share recipes with each other. So it's this really, beautiful exchange. Volunteers that we've had out there that have been volunteering for years. I talked to this lovely woman named Hope, which I love her name, and her husband for 3 years had volunteered together at the senior center, and she lost her husband last year, and now her son comes with her. So this year her son has stepped into his dad's spot and volunteers with her to help distribute food to folks who need access.
Wow, okay, so YCAP is a major part of addressing poverty in our area. Homelessness, you have programs that help there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we do the point in time homeless count, which happens every January. So, that's something for folks to know if you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer. That's something that we're out in different meal sites. So we're at the soup kitchens, we're at the food pantries, we're at, different nonprofits and sites, churches, where folks can come and, get access to services, and we have an opportunity to survey them and get a feel for what those numbers look like. Homelessness is up over last year. We haven't released our official needs assessment, but we've seen an uptick in homelessness here, and probably about 1,300 people, I think, is about where those numbers were for this year that are either homeless or are teetering on the edge of homelessness, couch surfing, which, really qualifies them in that homelessness phase. And we do innovative programs on the front side that we're working with prevention first and foremost. How do we keep people in their houses? So working with landlords that are, willing, with the support of our case managers, to rent to folks that maybe would not qualify because of their credit ratings or their backgrounds or issues maybe that they've had with employment, what have you, in the past. And we're able to wrap around those families with case management to be able to work with those landlords and make sure that those families have support that they need to, one, get them into the housing, and two, then keep them stable and into their home. We had a family recently that was in one of the RVs that has been, moving around, and that's been in the papers. And the Friday before Mother's Day, we got to hand the mom keys to an apartment, and we had a case manager for over 2 months that had been working with that family to get their paperwork together, to find where the programs were that they qualified for. They're in a rental unit now that's close to school, where their kiddos going to school, close to their church. They've met neighbors and made friends already in the neighborhood where they are. So that at the baseline, that's the core of the work that our case managers are working with folks to get them into that stable housing and help them stay there. And then we have work that a lot of people may not be aware of, our energy and weatherization, where folks may have, I got to go on site with one of our team members. It was a family that they were in their second winter without a furnace. And so here they are. I mean, this winter was a mild winter, but last winter wasn't. And, so here was this family that the husband had a significant health issue, couldn't work anymore. And they're trying to do the best that they can, raising some grandkids that were in their home. And here they are in a house that, they don't have heat in. And so through our energy and weatherization programs, we can go in and assess homes and can help with new furnace, insulation, new windows, fans, doors, those kinds of things that they need. So, when we look at a lack of affordable housing in the community, it allows folks to stay in those homes and to make sure that we keep affordable housing in the housing stock that we have, instead of that house then going beyond where it can be repaired and or folks losing those homes and not being able to be there anymore. And so there's work that we do on those fronts as well. And then we have rent and utility assistance. So again, how do we help folks not slip into homelessness or to lose the homes that they're in. And, a lot of times that may only be a few $100s that somebody needs to be able to stay where they're at and remain stable in their housing.
There's another program that this had some signs around the community that I didn't know was related. I knew that YCAP does youth services, and they have an outreach center or a drop-in center in Newburgh, and they're looking at maybe expanding here into McMinnville.
We sure hope so.
Okay. And I've seen signs around that the you matter, and on the backside it might say you're not your mistakes, or don't give up. And those are connected.
Those are connected. So our youth services are youth outreach. So we have the drop-in center that's in Newburgh. Kate Stokes has been with the organization for 16 years. She's an expert in youth services and youth outreach. They do amazing work for those kids over there. And there's been issues. I think there are issues across the country. We're seeing it nationally, on a scale of famous people, and a couple within a week that took their own lives. But there were a couple of suicides that happened in Newburgh High School. And so an effort was made that we want to let kids know that they matter and that they're not alone, and that all of us go through these difficult times and go through these stresses, and to know that they, one, have somewhere to turn, and that people care about them. So the kids have these signs. The signs, folks can come and get them, and they've put those up around town. They're the little rubber wristbands that say you matter, we care about you, that the kids can have and wear just as a reminder. And on Fridays, they go out to the flagpole in Newburgh with their signs, so that as folks are driving by, they're standing there with the signs to say, we care about you and you're not alone. And so, an effort just to know that the community's there and that they aren't alone, and to reach out. And the kids that go into that center, that's the place where they fit. And it doesn't matter if you are a misfit or if you're a little weird, that's the place where they feel like they are comfortable and they fit and they can hang out and they make friends, and it's a safe place. And there are services to help them look for jobs, great program that they're running that identifies jobs. They work with employers, connect the kids to those jobs, help them do their applications, apply for jobs. They have a computer lab over there where kids can come and get tutoring help and get access, to work on their schoolwork there, play video games. They have a group that plays magic cards, so it's just a beautiful connecting place. And then we have a transitional living program. So there is space for girls in Newburgh and space for boys in McMinnville that are kiddos like 18 to 21 that, although it might go, I take that back, might go to 17. And kids can get homeless youth, kids that are couch surfing. I've had some conversations with kiddos that were couch surfing and got into this program, and gets them into a place where they, as they're paying rent, 30% of the money that they pay gets set aside in an account. And when the kids graduate from the program, they get that money to go start on their own. So they've got, their deposit into the apartment where they might be going, so that they can be successful. It's a really great program.
Wow, that is a lot of programs helping people from a lot of different,
That's
a lot of different
wide
angles.
swath across the work that happens in the community. And a lot of it, folks know us for the food bank. That's where we're most visible.
Yeah.
When you're doing food drives, you see our food trucks driving, around town. That's something that I think that is more visible. But there's an incredible depth and breadth of work that's happening all across, different areas of work in our community.
Well, I know that YCAP does outstanding work. They, I think they have programs that other people emulate, that they want to know how you do it. And it's award-winning.
Yes. So we just got, and I will say, our work that we do in youth services, in our client services, we have a new veterans program that, got kicked off this past year. And, we have a case manager that specializes in helping homeless veterans be able to get into stable housing. And that's been a wildly successful program for us this past year. But we were recognized from Blanchett Farms this weekend that we got a community service award from them, thanking us for the work that we do, helping the most vulnerable in our community. And that's just an incredible honor for us. So they had a picnic to invite the community in and to see what they do over at Blanchett Farms, and then gave a beautiful award to YCAP for our partnership with them.
Wonderful. Now, as development director, that means The buck starts with you.
Yeah, and ends with
You
show
bring
me
in
the money.
You bring in the bacon.
Try to, yes.
And that takes many different forms. One of the more visible forms that I was just able to go to was the fundraiser,
The Raise the Barn.
the Raise the Barn at the fairgrounds. And what a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
The music was great. The food was fantastic. And there was a video. I just remember the video. Where did that come from?
So Nick Miles, so we actually talked, and Visit McMinnville, who are, marketing savants. We reached out to them to say, you're doing some really great stuff. Do you have a videographer that you could recommend? And they recommended a gentleman named Nick Miles. And so Nick came in and talked to us and asked questions and helped us really be able to tell the story in a way that we haven't been able to tell it before. And that really was a cornerstone of the evening. The Raise the Barn theme, which I love. That was here before I got here. Last year was the first year they did it. But the whole concept of, this, once upon a time, all your neighbors would come together, the community came together to help you raise your barn, to help you, build your homestead and to be successful and connected in. And so that whole tradition to bring forward to our work and to have that as the theme that we're doing our big fundraising effort or big fundraising event on, really felt like a good fit. And so the video, we really wanted to do a better job again, telling the story of the work that we do and telling the story of our clients. There's a lot of stigma that is attached to poverty. And, people just viewing things of people not having dignity or not treating them with dignity. And so to be able to tell the stories of, what people are dealing with and how they're coming out of that and building a life is pretty powerful. I mean, there are just absolutely beautifully inspiring stories, the clients that we work with that come through our doors every day. And so that video, we were able to talk about the different pieces of the work that we do. I've been doing fundraising and nonprofit management for 17 years. I have never seen people clap in the middle of a video, and 3 times during that video the audience burst into applause around those stories. So I think that really was an indicator that there's a lot of power in those stories, and that we see our neighbors in a very different and more dignified way.
Probably could find that on YouTube.
Yes, you can, on our website,
Okay.
you can go and watch the whole video and
right.
see those stories and
Wonderful.
how proud. I mean, Pablo was one that, he shares in that story that when he first came and was working for the person who owns the farm that he now runs, he was living under a bridge. And so this man went from living under a bridge to running a very successful farm and business of his own now with his children and giving back 58,000 pounds of food to pay that forward and help his neighbors. And, when we shared that number with him, his face, he just beamed with pride to know that he's paying it forward in that significant of a way. It's pretty cool stuff.
That is very cool stuff. Yeah. Well, the evening that you and your team put together was wildly successful at the bottom line, I understand as well.
It was. And, we're able to do that because we have businesses like the Diner and Kyle, who heads up, those teams for our chefs and recruits his buddies to come in. And they donate time and they donate ingredients and their incredible talent to make. It was one of the most spectacular meals I've ever had. They just do an incredible job. And wineries like Winderly, who donated wine, to help support us, and the Draft Horse, who's there to help serve it, and Bootleg Jam, who's providing incredible music. And with their support and a wildly successful paddle race, we were able to, raise and net $36,000 we netted to be able to give to services to help our neighbors.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super excited about it.
Well, Doris,
It was a great evening.
It really was. I'm looking forward to next year.
Me too.
And we've run out of time.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I wanted people to be able to meet you and get to understand what a great asset you are to our community. So thank you so much for
Such
being
an honor. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
here. You're welcome.